some holes in the canvas roof, and
No doubt.
no telling. So,
All
right,
right,
we're live.
go 3, 2, and 1. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool. Happy Veterans Day as we're recording this, Jonathan.
There we go.
I don't think the dun was the right.
Again, I'm way off cue here.
You should really label those buttons.
I really should. Yeah, happy Veterans Day on a Friday, which is kind of, we were just talking before the show. It's kind of weird to have Veterans Day at the end of the week. Usually I'm always thinking about that during the early part, or feels like it's earlier in the week or midweek or whatever.
I always think of those kind of holidays as being on a Monday, but I guess not. So yeah, good stuff. So today we're going to be talking about the 5 sales letters every marketer should know.
Yes.
You dug up an article, and some of these we've talked about in the past. Always good to review, but most we have not. I know one of them we've talked about just because it's so famous. And then the others, some people will be familiar, and I think some won't. So we'll dig through those. If you're listening on podcast, we are going to be sharing some visuals on this. If you go to the YouTube channel, Persuasion by the Pint, you'll be able to see some of these. Of course, you can go to persuasionbythepint.com and see the video there as well.
What got me thinking about the topic, Sean, I was digging through some books, and I came across this old one, and we've talked about this before, but the old End of America.
Oh, yeah.
Famous
2010.
Ish. And it kind of reminds me of, similar to, you hear it in the all over the financial news. What are we got? Next year we're dipping into a recession, all of this stuff, so you start to hear with what happened with, what's happened with crypto. Now's the time you start hearing all of the ads starting to be played on, Fox News or Fox Business. I hear them from time to time, and it's it's very similar. I mean, I don't think they're nowhere near as good as the original, this one that was out.
The other one comes to mind for that, which came out even earlier, probably 10, 15 years before that one, was The Plague of Black Debt, which was a very similar idea, overprinting money, dollar's going to die, like all this stuff.
Yep.
It is interesting to look back, the End of America, a lot of that stuff has not happened.
No, of course not.
Looking back 12 years since that was written, yes, we've had inflation, but certainly not hyperinflation. Although the last years started to feel like hyperinflation. So but, you make these calls long enough, and eventually you'll be right.
Well, you open it up at the very beginning. I mean, End of America, obviously, it's crazy, but it plays on so much fear.
Oh yeah.
Will this be the end of America as we know it? It asks a lot of questions, but there's a lot of great takeaways, even from, like, they did a fantastic job on the letter, but then this was the book that they offered, the little book. You can find it. I'm sure if you Google now, you can find the little PDF book.
Yeah.
And you can see it, but there's great lessons all over this little booklet that you can take away. There's a warning sign at the very beginning.
Yeah. The original of that was a VSL, video sales letter.
Yep, exactly.
And it had no title. That was the title, was the warning sign. Because I had just left Stansberry, and actually that idea for that sales letter had been bouncing around when I worked at Stansberry. And a couple people had tried to pull it off, and nobody really could.
Right.
And then about a year after I left Stansberry, Mike Palmer, who actually wrote it, he was my copy chief at the time. He finally got it. The timing was right.
Oh yeah.
And that thing, last I heard, it sold like 600,000 subscriptions.
Yes.
Now for context, a winning sales letter will sell about 10,000 subscriptions. And that's considered good. 100,000 is like a breakthrough.
Amazing.
So to go to like 600,000 plus, I don't even know where it stopped, but last I heard was like 600,000.
That was like what is that? $47 a month subscription or something.
Yeah. So that's the front end. And then of course that leads to it makes your list 600,000 buyers bigger.
Yeah.
And if then you start selling all the back end, the upsells, cross sells, all that stuff. And, that's worth tens of millions, probably hundreds of millions of dollars, not just to Stansberry, but to the entire, everybody they, swapped list with. Like it made all of Agora at the time bigger and more successful.
Yeah.
And of course, now they've been bought out and, Stansberry went, I don't know if they went public, but they definitely got sold. I think they did go public. So yeah, it's crazy.
And it's like we've talked about it on previous episodes. Like I'm reading in, and we won't spend much time on this, but I just find it fascinating the 5 reports that they offered with the subscription. So one is the 4 investment assets. You do not have to report to the U.S. government, the Gold Investors Bible, the secrets of the silver market, the 100% secret, the easiest way to make money in a risky stock market, and the world's most valuable asset in a time of crisis. So those are like, I'm sure a lot of people just wanted the,
we
talked about the reports.
Well, that's how Agora has always written their stuff. They sell, quote, put that in air quotes, they sell the free reports, but you can only get the free reports if you subscribe to the newsletter.
Yep.
But the whole sales letter is about the free reports. And then like the last third of the sales letter is about the subscription.
Sure.
But the bulk of the letter and the hook and all that is all about the premiums, not about the service. Because nobody wants a newsletter.
No.
But they want the information that could keep them from being, a victim of the end of America.
Absolutely.
And it works. It still amazes me. And anybody that's gone through Agora is like, it's so obvious, it's so out there, and very few marketers use the premium as the lead for their stuff. They always throw it in the bonus section at the end.
Yeah.
And what Agora does is they flip it, and all their quote bonuses are the start of the letter. Yeah. Like that's what they're quote selling.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because that's what people ultimately want. They want the immediate information, not the newsletter is kind of like, well, that's not immediate. You're wanting a quick, people want people want a quick solution for everything, right?
Yeah. So you create a problem, the end of America, and then you have a set of reports that solve the problem.
Right.
And oh, by the way, you can get these free when you subscribe to our service, which will alert you to all the other stuff going on in the world. So yeah, that's cool. I've forgotten about that, and I've got some of those. I think I've got that one. I've got a couple of other ones from Agora. We should dig into those someday on a future episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
But before we do that, before we get into these 5 sales letters, let's do some juvenile beer talk. It's the new segment name.
Juvenile. We should have a little some kind of little rhyme at the beginning,
a little jingle or something.
To appease our complainers out there, though, we did offer a little. We did talk a little shop, before our beer set.
Yeah.
So we did.
Well, now we're just mixing it up to throw them off, because now they're trying to fast forward. And they're going to be right in the middle of it now.
That's right.
Get to it. And they missed all the good stuff at the beginning. So
yep.
Yeah.
Gotta keep real quick, before we jump in, I did want to mention a company, since it is Veterans Day, a company that I really like. And I'm going to add them up here. It is a company called Hero Company. They are not a sponsor of our show in any way, but I really appreciate some of the stuff they do as a company. They support a lot of veterans who come back with PTSD. And as we all know, the VA is limited in the amount of services and support they can offer so many vets around the country. So, a lot of our wounded vets or veterans that have come back and they're having some difficulty transitioning, this company does a lot to help them out, whether it's service animals, dogs, supporting. You can donate directly, or you can buy. They've got some pretty cool swag. I've ordered some stuff from them in the past, and one of them I shared just Sean is this cool little it's called the Sherman Tank bracelet, but it's actually magnetic bracelet, so it's like magnetic therapy I don't know if that actually is a thing and it still, it really works, but
yeah,
it looks cool. So
it's like back in 10 years ago when all the baseball players were wearing that.
Yep, exactly.
That same necklace around.
Yep.
Yeah. Nobody's wearing that anymore. They're all wearing gold chains now.
That's right.
Which I guess is a natural element. So maybe it's got therapeutic benefits.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So you mentioned that one. Here's one I would mention as well. Let me knock yours off and add mine to the stream. Till Valhalla Project. This is a gear company, lots of t-shirts and things. Same kind of thing. They sponsor a lot of suicide awareness, mental health type stuff. Lots of t-shirts, bracelets, kind of thing. They even have a t-shirt of the month club, which is cool.
That is cool.
And some of their tees are kind of cool. Like this one, be kind. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about.
That's awesome.
Like some really good shirts. And like I said, they have
those are great. Yeah, I like those. That's a good message.
So that's Till Valhalla Project. They have men's, women's, bands, all kinds of stuff, accessories, hats, patches, all the things we like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So. No, we'll post some links to those for sure. And again, we're not getting any kickbacks or anything. We just wanted to share that. It's Veterans Day, so trying to.
Yeah, I just finished a Veterans Day workout called Chad 1000X. So it's 1,000 step ups on a 20-inch step with a 20-pound ruck.
Yeah.
Took about an hour and 20 minutes. And it was for a guy named Chad. I can't remember his last name. But he was I think in SEAL, Special Forces, one of the two. So it was in honor of him. Yeah, Chad Wilkinson, Navy SEAL. He took his life on October 29th, 2018 because of deployments, traumatic brain injury, PTSD, like he had it all. But he used to do this workout in his garage because one of his goals was to climb all the highest mountains on each continent. So he used this step up in his garage as his training. So he would do 1,000 step ups at a time. And so that was a great, so it's the stepupfoundation.org. You can learn more about them there as well. So
good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. We'll have definitely post those links on our show page.
Yeah. So let's talk some beer.
All right.
We have moved, mine's kind of on the line here. I've got Infamous Brewing, which is right down the road, 3 or 4 miles down the road here, west of Austin, Texas. It's called Infamous Brewing.
Yep.
This is the Pumpkin Massacre. It's a seasonal pumpkin ale.
I like that.
It's a porter. It's 7.5% alcohol. It says a serious porter with everything you'd find in a pumpkin pie. Pumpkin Massacre is malty, dark notes of pumpkin and spice and everything naughty. So here's what it looks just like that in the glass. Pretty dark, nice porter look to it.
Oh yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this one.
Looks nice.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
I thought it said ale, and I thought it was going to be a lighter, but because it says nowhere on the can that doesn't say it's a porter. It just says pumpkin ale. So it's a little darker than I expected, which is a pleasant surprise.
Oh yeah.
So what do you got over there?
I have I think you might, I don't know. I think you might have had this one before, Sean. This is a Victory Merry Monkey. Have you had this one?
I have not had that one.
Okay.
It's Christmas.
This is a Belgium style ale, cranberry, orange peel, cinnamon, and nutmeg.
Oh, that's definitely Christmas.
Yeah. So I'm a little early, but
right.
It looked
everybody
good.
else is skipping Thanksgiving. Why not you?
Why not me, right? So let me share this real quick. Let's see. Share screen. There we go. Here's what it looks like. So this was 10% ABV.
Okay.
35 IBUs.
Merry Monkey into all a good night. Yeah.
Yep. I'm jumping the gun, man. We're
a
month and a half away, but that's okay. It's a Belgian style holiday ale, combines the beloved flavor profile of golden monkey with notes of cranberry, orange peel, cinnamon, and nutmeg to deliver a delightful, smooth finish, perfect for merry gatherings with friends and family. So we'll see.
All right.
Let's see. Move. All right. I am ready. And by the way, I once again have forgotten my my glass.
To get you a new set of glasses for the office there.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's cheers.
Cheers. Okay, I've got a whiskey glass over here, and I had a little batch of Four Roses that almost broke out, but I decided I would hold off maybe next week on that one.
Yeah. All right.
Man, that's good. That's delicious. All
right. Give me a score there.
I'll go first. I'm going to go, I love the, the cinnamon. You could definitely taste the, it's got the notes of cinnamon and then a little bit of citrus taste in there, but it's really balanced. So I'm going to give this one I'm going to have to give this one a 4-4. It's a solid one. I think this is definitely a good holiday. Definitely good holiday ale for sure.
Yeah. So on mine, I'm not getting a lot of pumpkin, which is fine, but I'm definitely getting a little bit of spice, but not too much, which is good. So it does have like just a good porter taste with just a little bit of spice. So I'm going to give it a 4-2.
4-2. All right.
Yeah. So it's
two solid scores.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is very drinkable. So yeah, it's good. Nothing like a little pumpkin massacre.
I love that. Let me see can I see the artwork one more time on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So, okay. So I see, I couldn't quite tell at first. Okay. So it looks like, is that the Headless Horseman?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
What's his name? Can't remember what his name is.
Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
There you go.
Headless Horseman.
Yeah. That's been a few years since we read that.
Quite a few.
I'm sure somebody is yelling into their podcast right now the name of the Headless Horseman. Something Knickerbocker or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Is a school teacher Ichabod Crane? Is that it?
Ichabod Crane.
I think that's it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Sounds legit.
Pulling deep out of the subconscious there, man.
I'll buy that.
Yeah, sure.
So we're going to talk about getting back to more serious matters. We're going to talk about, this is one that got to give credit for where credit's due. Yep. I pulled this off and I sent Sean the link to an article it's over at Crazy Egg, crazyegg.com. It is the Daily Egg. I guess this is what they do over at Crazy Egg. They do a lot of website analysis, like
site tracking,
like
all that kind of stuff. I was going to give the author's name here. Where was it? Nate Smith wrote this. So
Nate Smith. And we'll share the link for sure on this. So people, what I love about this is he gives kind of a comment on this, and we'll share some of his comments and maybe some of our own takes. Cause as Sean said before, we've talked about some of these in the past, some of them we haven't. And, I went through, and the great thing about this article is it has links to each of these sales letters that you can, click on and go straight to and read them.
Yep.
So we'll talk about, Frank Kern, obviously he's one. Gary Halbert, he's in there, obviously. I was surprised, some were left out that I thought would be in here, but that's okay. I mean, you only get 5. You only have 5 sales letters. So
right. Yeah. There's a lot I would put in there, probably ahead of some of the others.
Right.
But it's his opinion on the 5 sales letters.
And we could have differing opinions. We could say,
I was actually surprised that the Frank Kern letter was on there. What he used to call,
I was too. Yeah.
He used to call that, I don't know if he mentions that in the article, but he used to call it the Russian Mafia letter.
Oh, really?
That's what Frank originally called it.
Sure. Okay.
And this got knocked. This was really, so March 2013. I remember when he came out with this, and everybody knocked it off for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty cool. And there's a big thing was like, well, we'll get into it. So, so let's jump in. Let's talk about what was the first one here. It was
Gary Halbert.
Gary Halbert. So I'm going to pull this one up.
Yeah.
Here on the screen. And this is, they linked to the original over in the old swiped.co archives, which is a great resource. And we're not going to read these whole letters, but at least look at the intro, and then we'll look at what Nate had to say about these. So the headline for those listening is this was a space ad in a magazine. So it's your typical, headline with like 3 or 4 columns. This one has 4 columns, so full page ad. And the headline is, well, the pre-head is need some fast cash, ? Which right there, like who doesn't, right?
Right.
Try this.
... Yeah.
And then the headline is the amazing money-making secret of a desperate nerd from Ohio. And it's got this guy, this picture in the 3rd column, who, could be a nerd, maybe not. I mean, it's Gary Halbert, but
right.
It's a nice black and white picture.
Yep.
So let's just read the first paragraph and then we'll jump into the commentary. So, dear friend, if you would like to make a lot of money very quickly, this is going to be the most exciting message you will ever read. Now that type of phrasing, this if then type thing, this is going to be the most important message or most exciting message you ever read. If you watch YouTube ads, like you will see that exact sentence and that basic sentence structure in a lot of YouTube ads, because you got to catch their attention in that 5-second skip.
That's right.
And you'll see them say, hey, if you'd like to lose 20 pounds before Christmas,
right, this
is going to be the most exciting message you will ever read.
Right.
So that phrase just continues to work even 30, 40 years later. So let's go back and see what Nate had to say and what he had to say here. Do you want to comment on this?
So he talks about plausibility and authority are kind of the 2 key takeaways from this. So plausibility, you have to convince the reader that the solution is possible. So if you're using things like, well, if this guy can do it, then anybody can do it, right? I mean,
right. If a nerd can do it, a desperate nerd can do it. I love they put in what's his name from The Simpsons in here.
What is it?
Melvin or something?
Yeah, something like that. Millhouse.
Millhouse, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nerdy name for sure. So, you got a picture of Millhouse in here.
But that's a key, plausibility is always key. So you're always convincing someone, and it goes back. Not just this sales letter, but in any advertising, if you think about it, if this guy that weighs 400 pounds can, if he can, lose 200 pounds and, have a new life, a new lease on life with a new lifestyle, you can do it. Right.
And what's John Carlton's famous ad, the one-legged golfer?
Yep.
right? I mean, that's kind of your world. Like, oh my God, if a one-legged golfer can improve their swing,
right?
Surely this will work for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So
and that goes about, plausibility. You have to convince someone first that it's even possible. Like, because people are naturally, they go into any sales letter advertising that you're doing, they're naturally skeptical about their ability to do it. So, sure, they can do it. They can make a ton of money. They've got all the resources they need, or, it takes money to make money. So they have money. Well, no, here's how you take away their skepticism is show them what, that people just like them or less than them have done it easily in the past. So,
well, we've talked about before on one of the shows, we talked about hyperbole and how when you make these over the top claims,
Yeah.
Your brain naturally kind of dials it back.
Yep.
But it believes it. It's like, well, it may not be he may not really be a desperate nerd.
Sure. Yeah.
But if he's close, I'm not a desperate nerd, so maybe I can pull this off.
That's right.
So that hyperbole, we see that a lot in, the Old Spice ads where it's humor, hyperbole. It's like, oh my God, women are falling at your feet. Well, we know that's not going to happen.
Right.
But if it's half that good, then maybe it's good. Yeah. I know Axe isn't that great, but maybe it's half as good as they say.
Yeah.
It's worth buying.
Yep.
Then the second thing he talks about, Nate talks about in this article, is the authority.
Authority, yeah.
And I love this paragraph. Authority means the reader trusts A, that you have the ability to solve the problem, and that B, you have a monopoly on the solution.
Yeah. Right.
Which is really good. Mm-hmm. And that is kind of buried in this letter, where he gets into some of his stats and things like that. And I think in the, 20,000 checks per day.
Yep.
So he talks about
showing proof.
To establish authority, Gary includes the blurb about teaching money-making boot camps at which attendees gladly pay him $5,000 a seat. He also includes specific numbers like make up to $10,000 a day. And I was once paid $2,500 for one of these, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And then you can use these for all kinds. You can use, like I was just said, you could use these for YouTube ads. He mentions in the article that you could use some of this formula for Facebook ads, which would be really good. Blah, 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 blah. So,
yep, absolutely.
We're not going to go too deep because we're going to include the links on these, and you can definitely look through these.
Plausibility. Those are the two takeaways on that one, though. Plausibility and authority. And I like the plausibility more than anything. Authority, obviously, you can use whatever authority you want to use, and it's whether it's, depending on the advertising you're using, again, showing screenshots, proof.
Well, that's a good point too, because if you just went with the authority that he has in his piece, it would not have done as well, because it would sound like bragging, and it would sound like, just sound like bragging. It'd be unbelievable. But when you put in that first section, kind of the nerd can do it, then anybody can do it. It definitely feels much more plausible.
Yep. It reminds me of the old. You remember the Charles Atlas ads in the comic books where the skinny kid.
Yes.
And you're thinking, as a kid, you're thinking, well, if that skinny kid can turn around after getting sand kicked in his face,
yeah.
he could, if he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
So every teenager or kid, sent off for that was ever bullied or that was a skinny beanpole, they were like, I'm going to do that. If he can do it, I can do it. So,
yeah. And how many, we talk about story all the time. How many stories are based on kind of this idea, right? You saying that immediately makes me think of Karate Kid, right? It's like,
that's
there's this kid who gets beat up actually on the beach, and then he's like learns karate, finds this master, and so it's a classic like underdog tale.
Absolutely.
Is what you're really getting down to.
That's right.
And just well packaged, and then some proof and things like that.
Yep.
All right. So let's look at the next one. Frank Kern's consulting letter. Would you like me to personally double your business for free? So the headline, let me pull this one up. Let's see. Would you like me to personally double, triple, or even quadruple your business for free? What? For free?
For free?
Why would you do that? I must know more. Tell me more, Frank. From the desk of Frank Kern, this is an old school tactic that I think a lot of people have stopped using, but still works, to have the little desk thing here. And I remember when he wrote this, and it was literally a PDF attachment. It wasn't a sales page. You literally just downloaded a PDF. And we were talking, what was that, a couple weeks ago to Bill Mueller.
Yeah.
About how he put his sales letter on a Google Doc.
Yep.
And just didn't worry about design, didn't anything. It just looked very much like this.
Right.
And I think that could make a comeback right now with, a lot of stuff.
Oh, I think so too.
Over designed and things like that.
Yep.
So I love the opening line is great. I'm looking for a dream client that I can bring in massive windfalls for. Okay. Sounds good to me.
Sounds like a win-win deal.
Yes. If you're that client, I will personally work with you one-on-one in your business to help you double, triple, or maybe even quadruple your revenue for the next 12 months. You pay nothing out of pocket ever. Here's why.
Yep.
It's like, I'm hooked. Like, tell me more. But let's go back and see what Nate, or was that his name, Nate? See what Nate has to say about it.
Yep.
Why you need to know about this letter. Frank might be the most copied direct response marketer of the modern era. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
2, 3, even 5 times. Cuts through the crowded space. Yeah, the for free is a big piece of it.
I think one of the biggest things is like there's the risk, the low risk, and I think it's so important because one of the most powerful things he says, near the end is he says, in the unlikely and unprecedented event that you feel like you wasted your time, I will send you $1,500 as payment immediately. Right?
Yeah.
No questions asked.
That's a very ballsy guarantee right there.
That's right.
And I remember when he did that, I remember because I was actually in one of his courses at the time when this letter came out. And I remember being on some calls and people were like, oh my God, are you actually going to send people the money? He's like, yeah, if they ask for it.
Yeah. But here's the catch. Most people are not, especially, if you're dealing with the right people, right? And that's all about, at the beginning, he's looking for the dream client. Not everybody fits into the dream client, right? The dream client has to fit, a certain level of criteria. And the dream client, the potential dream client is not going to be asking for $1,500 back immediately. So
and you get to pick the client, like people were freaking out, but he told people, it's like, well, you don't have to take anybody.
That's right.
Unless you can help them.
Right.
And you ask him these questions. He had a process on his consulting call that he went through. But yeah, you don't take the client if you don't think you can make them money. So that's how you don't have to worry about the $1,500. It's not like if you don't make $1 million reading this letter, I'm going to send you $1,500. It's if I take you as a client, if you qualify, and then if you don't get the results, then I'll write you a check.
Right.
So there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through to get the $1,500, but it's still, it's like, oh, he's willing to put $1,500 behind this. Still to this day, nobody's doing that.
Right. Yeah.
That I've seen.
One of the other things I love in this letter is that he walks people through what to expect. Here's how it'll work. And then he goes through the process. First we'll get on a phone call. We'll go over your business. I'll take a look at what you've got, what you're doing. And, so he basically lays out what to expect.
Yeah.
And then why he would, everybody wants to know why, the reason why.
Yep.
So he lays out the why behind this.
And notice too, like this is not a lot of copy. Like here's how to work. 1, 2, 3 paragraphs.
Right. Yeah.
And then here's the reason why you're talking about. Why might I do this for you? Well, or he'll show you a couple ways. So why would I offer it? 2 reasons. And he goes through the 2 reasons, but it's like a half a page, 3/4 of a page. Like it doesn't have to be a ton of copy, lined out. He even throws his fee out there right up front.
Yep.
So he's not getting on the phone with people who are broke or anything like that. He's putting right out front that my fee is $97.50 a month.
Yeah.
So he's already.
Yeah, he's very open. That's what's one of the most effective things in this. Because he says, first of all, what the reason behind this, or first of all, I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
The second thing is that he's just saying, this is how I do it. This is how I attract top level clients.
Yeah.
And by the way, when I attract those top level clients, here's what my fee is.
Yeah.
So I'm not ashamed to say it. And he's just kind of like open and honest. Some people try to kind of hide everything before, in their sales letter till you get to till you move to the next level. And, he's very open. So I think this works well. When you are that guy, that guru, I guess that Frank Kern, he used to be a much bigger name, and I think it worked well because everybody knew Frank Kern. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wonder, I think this works if you've definitely got the cachet behind it.
Actually, I was wrong. He is saying that for the call, if you don't get value out of the call, I'll pay you $1,500.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So yeah, it's not after he hires, it's like literally on the call. So you have to be.
That's balls. I mean, so you do have to have a level of name recognition, I think, to be able to, to make this work.
I don't know, because I know the sales process he goes through and the way he does his calls for these, or what he did for this particular letter.
Yeah.
And it's a very consultative selling process. So he'd get on the phone, he'd be like, okay, tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you think if we doubled the amount of emails you're sending, that might improve your revenue. And they say, yeah. And he's like, well, how much do you think that would improve it? 20,000 a year. Okay, great. So there's 20,000 a year we just found for you.
Right.
And that's the way he does his sales calls. It's very like low key. And by the end, he's found like $100,000 theoretically for your business. So it's pretty hard for you to say it wasn't worth your time on the call, because he just walked you through.
That's right.
All, finding $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 worth of stuff that you could do. And then all he does at the end, he's like, would you like help with that? That's literally his transition from consulting to sales, is like, so we've talked about all this stuff. We've talked about how you could increase your email. We talked about how you could do this. We talked about how you could do that.
Yeah.
Would you like help with that?
Yep.
And if somebody just walked you through that and saw those things that you didn't see before, you're going to say yes.
Oh yeah.
Like if you got the money, and you're not going to, and if you go through that, you're not going to say, no, this was a complete waste of time. I want $1,500. It's just not going to happen.
No.
So yeah, this is a really good letter, and you could use this for just about any niche.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking like sales consulting, for sure. I mean, this one would be one of those that I tucked away in that industry for sure. And even in the industry that I serve, in the composites and chemicals, I mean, there's a way that you could make this work.
Oh, for sure.
For my industrial clientele.
And he does give like, some parameters before you book a call. Like, here's who I can help. Yeah. Not everybody's going to qualify. You have to have a solid business. You have to be already doing 6 or 7 figures.
Absolutely.
You have to have a steady flow and lead. So if you're a newbie, don't call.
Yeah.
You must have a list. You must have a good, solid product. You must follow directions. Like, so there's 5 things you must have already before you can even make it to the call.
Yep.
And I think this back in the day, you had to fill out an application.
So which is brilliant, by the way, because that's like takeaway selling. I mean, that's pure takeaway selling right there.
And now it's commonplace, right, for a lot of coaches and consultants to
absolutely
go through an application. But at this time, that was still kind of
see if you qualify. Yeah.
All right.
I love that's brilliant. I love takeaway selling. I love how that's used.
All right. So what was the next sales letter? Oh, this
is one that I love. I'm a big fan. I know that I love his book, Joe. So the next one is Joe Sugarman, in his famous blue blocker ads, or his famous blue blocker ad for the sunglasses. But he's got, I forgot the name of his book. I know you said it's one of our friend Ben's favorite. But he's got one on advertising that I love. I haven't looked at it in a while, but I need to go back through that.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But again, somebody's yelling into the podcast.
We can't hear you.
I can't hear you, man. You're in the future.
But there's some real takeaways from this, especially in my industry, that I can definitely utilize. I think of all the ads, Frank Kern's good and can be tweaked, but this one, from a product standpoint, this one's really good.
Okay.
And
so tell me why you like this one. Here's the ad itself, shown on the screen. Vision breakthrough is the headline. When I put on the pair of glasses, what I saw, I could not believe, nor will you.
Yeah.
So there's just some pure like curiosity and fascination going on right there.
Yeah. Well, to me, this is a classic ad on telling you lead with a story. Okay. Yeah. And I like how he leads with the story as if he's, obviously he's writing the ad, but he's
I love
telling a story as if he's just a Joe Schmo, buyer out there that,
because it's got a byline. It's like by Joseph Sugarman, right? So it looks like an article, which is supposed to, because when was this? Like, this is the 80s that this came out?
Yeah.
So this was a magazine article, and I love, like, below it says they look like sunglasses. It's like, well, yeah, they do. What are they not sunglasses? Like, what?
I thought they were.
Yeah, I mean, like, so yeah, it makes you like that one line. And I think David Ogilvy said the caption under a picture is the second most read thing on an ad.
Right.
Headline is first, and then captions under images, which you hardly see anymore.
Right.
Like, as I'm thinking about this, people put all these pictures on their site, and they very rarely put a caption right under the picture. There's usually copy out next to it, but there's not captions under the pictures as much as there used to be.
Right.
So that's
I think that's great. I mean, yeah, the little subtle, they look like sunglasses,
It's like, well, I thought they weren't. What? Now I got to read to find out what's going on. And the first line of the story is, I'm about to tell you a true story.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then his next line, if you believe me, you'll be well rewarded. If you don't believe me, I'll make it worth your while to change your mind. Now, that's an interesting sentence. I will make it worth your while to change your mind.
That is an interesting phrase. Like, it's not like I'll make it worth your while and send you $1,500 like Frank Kern's letter we just saw.
Right.
This is like, I'll make it worth your while to change your mind.
Yeah. Okay.
That's like some ninja stuff going on.
It is. It really is. It's like
okay. NLP ninja stuff. And then he says, let me explain.
Yeah.
Which, whenever we wrote, at Agora, we kind of kicked off the show talking about Agora, but that was always the transition from the hook to kind of the meat of the sales letter.
Sure.
And I love it.
Prepares you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, let me explain. Well, if you're about to explain, I can't stop reading now.
Yeah.
It just draws you in. It's like, here's what's going on. There's a couple phrases, that we've got, like, let me explain. Here's what's going on. Here's what you need to know. All those types of things. Once people read that, if they make it that far, they're going to keep reading.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then he goes straight into a story, so you don't really know where he's going. It's like, Len is a friend of mine who has an eye for good products. One day he called, excited about a pair of sunglasses he owned. So incredible, he said. And you're like, what? I don't understand where we're going. Like, you're caught up in the story, but you're not sure where it's going.
Right. Exactly.
So you have to keep reading, because your brain has to. I think Michael Masterson, Mark Ford, he talked one time about categorical imperatives and how our brain is always looking to sort.
Yeah.
And figure out, where does this go in my brain?
Yeah.
Like, is it something I need to pay attention to, or is it something I need to ignore and file away?
Yeah. But here's the thing. Anytime you see dialogue in a copy, like, in quotes, then that's persuasive. I mean, that makes you want to keep reading, because it's almost like it's a story.
Yeah, it is a story. I mean, he says right up front, I'm about to tell you a true story.
Tell you a story. Yep.
And he goes back and, just couldn't believe eyes. And then down here, sunglass danger. What? Danger wearing sunglasses? Dramatic difference.
Right. Exactly.
Don't be confused. So yeah. And
this is, I could literally, like I said before, I could rip this ad off.
Yeah.
And
I want to hear
totally
about that,
use it like, Lynn is a friend of mine. Well, I could say, Bill is a process engineer that I am good friends with, or that I've worked with in the past. One day he called me to tell me about, it's like, I could totally change this around to show. And what I love about it most of all is, like, if you're selling anything, I mean, this is out to the consumer, but you can use this in B2B. If you're selling products, or, like I said, in the industrial industry, I could take this, but I love the way he educates.
Yes.
So you go under the couldn't believe eyes. There's a level of education, like, okay, so you think these are just typical sunglasses, but let me explain to you why these aren't just like regular sunglasses. And so he gives a good explanation and a good education about, blue light or blue spectrum, light waves from the sun, and, why these things are harmful. even reading this, I didn't even know, like he talks about Blue Monday, who knows if these things have any correlation whatsoever, but he does a good job of like, tying them together. Like, you ever heard of things like, Blue Monday, having the blues, blah, 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 um, blue is not a good color. I love blue. But apparently blue is a bad color. So,
so as you're talking here, it reminds me of an ad I wrote. And I did not write it based on this ad that we're talking about, but I'm going to show you that how exactly what Jonathan's talking about, how you can go from like a consumer product like that. So I'm going to have to stop that screen. I'm going to have to present a new screen. Where's a window? This one here. Excuse my techness while I try to figure this out. All right. So this was an ad I wrote in the granite countertop industry. And this was one of the first ones I actually wrote for this company. We've talked about Braxton Bragg before on the show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I worked with them for almost 10 years.
Right.
But it's a story-based thing. It says, finally, a manufacturer who listens to a repairman, 21 upgrades implemented so far. And then it's got, and this went in their trade journal that they produced. It's got a picture of a router. But here's how it starts out. My name is Bill Roberts, and I repair routers for Braxton Bragg. Over the years, I've worked on hundreds of routers made by most manufacturers, including Sector, Stinger, MEM, and others. I've seen a lot of wear and tear. Routers get a lot of hard use. Some parts simply wear out. And he goes through this story of nobody listened to him. He would call manufacturers and tell them how they could improve, and nobody listened. And then finally, somebody did. This company that makes Hercules router. And now every time he's got an update or he notices something wearing out too quick, he lets them know and they replace the part and make it more durable. Yep. But that's a story about how this router is now better than most routers. And just a simple story like that.
Yep.
And it all fits nicely on one page, just like the Blue Blocker ad.
Yep. I love the old school copy layout with the little, 3 or 4 column sections,
I love writing space ads. Like
I
wish
too.
they were more popular.
Yep.
I wish I had been writing copy in the 80s, because I really love
fantastic. Yeah.
I love writing these type of ads. There's just not a lot of place for them now.
Yeah.
But you can do some of the same
except
stuff.
in like they're in trade journals and things like that. You could still although I think that they're not utilized anymore. And I think that's a huge mistake.
For sure.
From a lot of marketers and advertisers not using these traditional type of these ads, these 3-column ads with the like you said, Sean, with the you got the bold headlines at the top, and you got the columns with the little displays and things like that. I mean, these are incredible. It's
there's something about them that just
looks like Oh, go ahead.
It's just something about it. They're easy to read. I think it's the short columns.
Yeah.
They're not very wide, and the reason newspapers and magazines used to have columns is because it's easier on the eyes to read.
Yep.
Instead of scrolling all the way across the page.
Right.
Now there's so much stuff on mobile that you kind of have the same effect, but it's just one long column.
Right. Yeah. It looks like an advertorial, more or less. I mean, that's what you're basically reading.
Yeah. So but I do love, like, just at a glance, it's like, oh, this isn't too much to read. It's one page. It's got a big picture on it.
Yep.
Like, it's not intimidating like a lot of sales pages are these days.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and there are advertorials that people do, but you could, as we're sitting here and kind of brainstorming, you could certainly, instead of sending somebody to a sales page, you could send them to a PDF that is designed like this.
Right.
That they just download and pop open on the computer. Now, the problem is if people do that on their phone, then they got to scroll sideways. And
right. Exactly.
It's not great experience. Right. Was there anything that the article said that you wanted to cover about this one? Or have we already covered it?
So I mean, my biggest takeaway is just educating your target market. I think he does an excellent job of that. Like, things, it goes back to that element that we talked about in persuasion is sometimes creating problems that you never knew existed. Mm-hmm. And that's a good takeaway from this ad, is like not even realizing blue spectrum light is not great for your eyes.
Yeah. That sounds like commonplace today, because everybody, with computers, we talk about blue light all the time.
Right.
But in the 80s, nobody was talking about this.
No one whatsoever. So to me, that's an example of where you would say, creating those problems that, a lot of times most people don't, relate to your, the product that you have. What are things that you're not thinking about? Like I mentioned last week on the show, where the water filtration guy starts talking about kidney stones at the beginning of his radio ad. You know, so there was a little bit of, whoa, okay, you got my attention. Because I'm like, when you start the, ad out educating people about the problems of kidney stones and how painful they are. I've never had a kidney stone, but by the end of the, by the end of his radio ad, I was like, oh man,
I don't want those either.
I don't want those.
What do I need to do to prevent that?
Exactly.
So that's the case where, prevention did sell, because a lot of times they say prevention doesn't sell.
Right.
But if you make the pain big enough, prevention will sell.
Right.
That's how most supplements sell. It's how a lot of stuff, if it's really good.
Yep.
All right. So let's go on to the next sales letter. This is a classic.
One we've talked about in the past.
Yeah. The Wall Street Journal letter. Why they don't still use this, I have no idea.
Oh, it's fantastic.
This sold over $2 billion in subscriptions for the Wall Street Journal between 1975 and 2003.
Yep.
But again, it starts with the story.
I don't see why. I mean, it could still work today, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Whoever's in charge over there is probably just, we're worried about the online Wall Street Journal instead. Yeah. But even so, it could still convert to online. But it has this open loop story at the beginning that you just have to find out what's going on with these two guys.
Right.
And so let's take a look at this.
I love how it starts. These are really good starter paragraphs.
Yeah.
On a beautiful late spring afternoon, 25 years ago, two young men. So it does there's a lot of curiosity, and, it's real, story-based type letters like this are just, to me, so persuasive, because you just got to, you got to keep reading.
Well, what's interesting about this, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, but this letter went out like this. And what do you notice right at the top that seems counterintuitive to what we talk about in advertising? Like the product is right up top.
Yeah.
The Wall Street
exactly.
Journal.
Yeah, exactly. At the very top.
They're hiding it. They're not, there's no fancy headline, which actually brings back, End of America.
Right.
That we talked about at the top of the show. Like, it really didn't have a headline. End of America kind of ended up being the headline. But when it was originally written, that was not the headline. It was just warning. This could be disturbing or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, right up front, there's like, this is either from or about the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
And if it came in an envelope, they're probably trying to sell, because most of these went out in envelopes when this came out.
Dear reader.
Yeah. That's another little thing. When I worked at Stansberry, Mike Palmer, he said, always start your letter with dear reader.
Yeah.
Not dear investor, not dear entrepreneur, not dear whatever. And he's like, the only thing for sure is that they're reading the letter.
They're reading the letter. That's it.
You don't actually know that they're an investor. You don't actually know that they're an entrepreneur. The only actual thing to be correct and honest about is saying dear reader.
Yep.
I was like, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're making an assumption that may or may not be true.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, he opens with the
very optimistic. Two people,
Yeah.
Both were happily married, both have 3 children.
Yeah.
They pretty much seem like pretty much the same people.
Work for the same company. There was a difference.
There was a difference, that compare and contrast. He immediately, quickly goes to that compare and contrast but there was a difference.
Yeah. And this is another one of those where you don't know where the letter's going. Like, you don't understand. Your brain can't figure out, what are they trying to sell me here?
Right.
So it's got to keep reading. It's like a good riddle, right?
Yes.
A good riddle, your brain will not turn off until it knows the answer. But as soon as it knows the answer, it's like, oh, yeah.
It's like any good mystery. You got to know who done it, right?
Yeah. So your brain is like, okay, what's the difference in these two guys? And that's the subhead. What made the difference?
Yep.
The difference lies in how each person knows and what each person knows and how he or she makes use of that knowledge.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. And that's why I'm writing to you. Oh, okay. And blah, 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 blah. And it goes on. And this is only a 2-page letter. The rest of the letter is actually not here. They cut it off. There's a whole second page that like does like the things you get in this. It's interesting that it's not on here.
Yep.
But there's another page that goes with this.
Yeah. But I think they've highlighted some of the most important stuff here. I love that knowledge is power. The journal is the single best source for news and statistics about your money. Really?
Yeah.
In the money investing section, there are helpful charts. So they give an example.
Okay.
And I love that, if you've never read the Wall Street Journal, you cannot imagine how useful it can be for you. So, and then they give the reason, they start backing it up with how you save money on a subscription and, the reasons why you should move forward. And I don't know, it's just.
And I love this line at the end. I think this is really
investment in success.
Well, I like this. It says, I cannot promise you. So you just told him all this stuff that happened to this one guy and how successful he became. And I love how they kind of pull back. We talked about takeaway selling. Like, hey, I cannot promise you that success will be instantly yours if you start reading the Wall Street Journal. It's like, but you just said all this good stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But I can guarantee that you will find the journal always interesting, always reliable, and always useful.
Yep.
And I love that. It's a very that's like when I read that, I'm like, that's fair. Like, I understand you can't guarantee that, but that's fair. That's a phrase I think a lot more people could use at the end of their sales.
Yep.
Is this little phrase here, like, hey, I cannot promise you that this course or this product or this, even with you, Jonathan, your people, I can't promise you that our service will solve all your problems.
Yeah.
But I can guarantee blah, 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 blah. Like 3 things that you can guarantee. And that pullback and that being a little more honest and like, it's almost like showing you understand that you're not going to solve all their problems.
Right.
It makes it more human and makes it more believable. Makes the rest of the letter more believable because you just admitted this may not answer all your problems, but it could certainly be, could help.
Yeah.
And then I love the PS too. It's important to note that the journal subscription price may be tax deductible. Ask your tax advisor. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I'll do that.
And again, the fact that this thing ran for almost 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible.
That's pretty amazing. Most ads don't run near that long. Now, a fraction of that length of time, but again, what was the total?
$2 billion.
$2 billion. Think about that.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Especially throughout the 70s and 80s. I mean, most of that, it's like, I mean, we haven't had $1 trillion companies until like the last, year or two.
Right.
So billions are big. Billion is still a lot of money, despite what you might think if you follow, some of the big companies right now. But it's pretty wild.
So here's the takeaways that Nate gives us. Facebook ads, email funnels, or sales pages. This is a great way to utilize this for any type of product that you're selling. How do you hold attention and imply that your product or service is correlated with a result without outright saying it? Well, tell a story about two people.
Yeah, I mean, if you're
one that used your product and one that didn't, right?
That's all you have to do, right? It's like, here's 2 manufacturers, here's 2 coaches, here's
Absolutely.
2 accountants, here's 2 golfers. Like, it'll work anywhere.
The golf, I love that golf analogy. That could be,
that
could be incredible. Here are 2 golfers.
They went to the same golf coach. They used the same clubs. Like all the things they did the same, but one had an edge.
That's right.
One shot, one broke even and one was 30 over par. Like that's right. The difference.
They both started golfing. They both picked up golfing at the same time.
Yeah.
Around the same time. But after 10 years, here's where this guy is and here's where this guy is.
Yeah. So what made the difference?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Let me tell you.
Let me tell you. That would work well in any golf ad.
Oh, for sure. Because everybody wants to beat their buddy at golf, right?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So the last one is essential sales letter number 5. Why haven't TV owners been told these facts?
That's an intriguing one right there.
Yeah. So this is old school.
Yeah. No one cares this day and age because TVs are about as disposable as
right. Our electronics have become disposable. But back in the day, for the youngsters out there,
sure.
You used to repair your electronics. You didn't throw them away and replace them, right? Because they were expensive. So back in the days when you repaired your TV or you repaired your whatever, this ad was very important. So this does not have a link to the complete letter link does not work on this page. So all we've got are these 2 paragraphs, but this was also like a space ad in a magazine. Why haven't TV owners been told these facts? So first of all, it's like, we've talked about this before, like somebody's hiding something from me.
That's right.
Like
it's these people. It's always using that conspiracy, right?
Yes. Somebody's there's a conspiracy going on. Somebody's not telling me something.
Right.
I mean, they might as well put the word secret in here because that's what they're saying. Right. You could just as easily say, why haven't TV owners been let in on this secret? It'd be the same feel to it.
Yep.
Was your set purchased after the spring of 1947? Oh my God. Yes, it has. It was.
Yep.
Then here's the full uncensored story of how blah, blah can avoid those $15 to $20 repair bills, avoid those $30 to $860 a year service fees. Children, for those youngsters listening, can you imagine an $860 a year service fee for your TV when a TV is like, you can get a 4K TV for $400 now? It's crazy. And still get the perfect movie clear pictures you've dreamed about. So there's I love the very specific dollar amounts in here, the very specific if your TV was after this time. So a lot of specifics going on in this top piece. How many times this week have you had to get up to fix a jumpy TV picture? There's people listening that have no idea what we're talking about.
What is going on there? A jumpy TV? Is that a thing?
It's definitely a thing. I remember those days. How many times have you had to put up with ghosts? It is kind of funny reading this now because if you read this,
and I remember stuff like you and I remember stuff like that back from the because we're old school.
You should share this with your teens and see what they say about that. Do you know what this means? You know what a jumpy TV picture is?
A jumpy picture, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Like it's scrolling, right? The TV scrolling up and down, like.
Yep.
It's funny.
Now the biggest complaint is like, okay.
Every once in a while in the storm, you get like that digital look, like all the grids, the pixels and stuff.
Yeah.
90% of these breakdowns
it's not high definition enough if you're using if you're switching from one channel to the next and you're using a streaming service, you know how that, there's a delay before it like really, I guess the high definition really kicks in. So
that or the sound is different on different channels.
Yep.
That's annoying. Or different platforms. Even. Like we switch from Netflix to, cable or whatever. The sound is totally different.
Yep. But
90% of these breakdowns are unnecessary. Cool. So let's see what Nate has to say.
This is another, in my opinion, this is another stealer for the industrial sector that I could use, especially with that headline. Why haven't manufacturers or why haven't our industry, why have our industry or the composites industry been told these facts, or manufacturers been told these facts, or engineers been told these facts about blah, blah, blah.
So what made this ad work, and this is from Schwartz and Breakthrough Advertising, which we did about 10 episodes on.
Yep.
He said back then, if you go back to context, right? Context is everything to understand why this ad worked. Only a small fraction of people consider themselves capable enough to respond to a headline that might be save up to $100 a year on your TV repairs, because nobody thought they could repair their own TV. It was intimidating, all that kind of stuff. So they had to go with a different angle to get people at least interested, right? But you couldn't say repair your own TV and save $200 a year, because nobody would think that they could do that.
Right.
So this was kind of a back door into teaching people how they could do their own repairs.
Sure.
So you could do something like this, even in, let's say you wanted to sell Facebook ads, and you have an ads agency. They could either buy your service, or you could teach them how to do it themselves.
Right.
Right. But a lot of people would be intimidated to run their own ads. So you could use something like this to show people, to ease them into the idea that, no, actually you can run your own ads.
Yeah.
And here's a course to do it. So it's a subtle technique of winning over a reader who's seen it all before and thinks it's not for him. So you're just coming in through a different door, basically.
Yeah.
There's a picture of what a TV kind of used to look
like. I don't remember that one quite.
Yeah, that's not quite right. It was more horizontal.
Yeah.
You do see it like when they were doing the Georgia Tennessee game last week, and they were recapping like all the years, and some of the, as they got older and older footage.
Oh man. Yeah.
It got snowier and snowier and snowier.
Yeah, those old Herschel games or something else.
How did we used to watch that? You can't even tell what's going on. I mean, now they can you can see like one blade of grass between the shoe and the sideline now.
Oh, I know. It's so detailed. It's amazing.
So how to use this? Perfect for sales pages, landing pages. You'll have to dig up the full version. It is. I think there's more to it in the Breakthrough Advertising book. If you don't have that book, it's worth getting.
Yep.
Because like I said, there's not a link from this. The link is broken. So yeah, that's the.
Yeah, you can find. I'm sure you can Google and find this letter in full.
Yeah. So those are the 5 sales letters that everybody needs to know about. Every marketer needs to know about.
Yep.
Anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I'm going to, bookmark this link and come back to some of these because, again, Joe Sugarman, probably my favorite out of all 5 of these, just because there's some really good takeaways that I can still utilize in some of the letters to my prospect list in the industrial segment. And I think my favorite thing about it, again, going back to just the way he explains it and, creating or educating people on the problem. I think he does a fantastic job of that.
Yeah, for sure.
And also this one too, again, I could use it. I mean, almost all of these I could use, but even this last one here, creating the conspiracy, because in my industry, I know a lot of engineers are very conspiratorial. I mean, they're thinking about, what's being left off or, who's trying to get the best of them.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all prone to that by nature, but I know engineers are like that for whatever reason. I think they're just overthinkers by nature, probably. But, but yeah, there's obviously some things like that, some elements of that I could certainly utilize. Anybody could. So
yeah, especially when you can work in, like I did with the router ad, when you can work in some like jargon.
Yeah.
Like there's times the jargon is not good, and there's times that jargon works really well, right?
Yeah.
So you have to know who your audience is. If you're going like big mainstream cold traffic, jargon is usually not good.
Yeah.
But if you're going to people, engineers or super enthusiasts, then you do want to use jargon. Like if I'm selling to golfers, I need to know all the golfing terms.
Everything. Right.
If I'm just selling, however, I want to get people into golfing, I can't use a lot of those same words.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you have to know where on the spectrum people are. And we talked about that a lot with Breakthrough Advertising and the awareness and market awareness and all that stuff. Which if you want to see those episodes, those are like episodes 10 through 20 or something like that. There's a lot of A lot of good stuff in those episodes.
No doubt.
Man, that hour flew by.
It did. Yeah. So it's a good one.
Yeah.
Good segment. We will include, as I mentioned earlier, we'll include all the links to some of the stuff we've mentioned, including the link to this article, because we want to give them, obviously, the author of this credit to the fullest extent. So we'll link. What was his name again, Sean?
It was Nate Smith.
Nate Smith.
Yep.
We'll give Nate Smith his due credit. And then within this article, you can just click on some of the links to access some of these actual letters. And then we'll also link to some of the ones that we mentioned also, as well as the, the End of America letter. I'll find a copy of that and link to that as well, Sean.
So here's a picture of Nate Smith right there. So we should probably get Nate Smith on the.
We should
call.
He doesn't even know that we're talking about his.
He does not. 80/20 marketing guy. So there you go.
It'd be a good introduction, right? Talk about his stuff, and then just send him a link, and then
send him the link to the video and say, "Hey, you want to be on the show?"
He's got no choice then.
Yeah. So good old Nate, man. Miss that guy.
That's right. Yeah, good stuff. Anything else before we wrap up this week, Sean?
I don't think so, unless we want to do some juvenile beer talk again.
No,
I'm out. I'm out of beer, so I guess we're done.
Mine's gotten better as the time has gone, but it is a 10%. So
those dark beers, those thick dark beers, definitely get better with air. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. They just get better as you sip them. So, yeah, cool. Yeah, I think we're done. So I'll let you take us
wrap it up. All right, guys. Well, you can find us at, as always, persuasionbythepint.com. You can find us on all of your podcast platforms, whether it be Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, you name it. Subscribe. You can visit our website, again, persuasionbythepint.com. You can find us on Facebook, Persuasion by the Pint. Just search us on Facebook. You can find our group. So there's so many ways that you can find our stuff. And as always, we thank you. Leave us 5 stars, because I never say that. You should leave us 5 stars.
I say that every time.
We have 5 stars, but we need more 5 stars. Yes. So you can leave 5 stars, and that'll make us happy. And again, visit some of the links that we've mentioned earlier, especially the vet stuff, like the Hero Company. And what was the one that you mentioned, Sean?
Till Valhalla Project. Don't ask me to spell that.
Yeah. We'll have the link on this show page. Episode.
If you just write Till and then V, it'll pop up probably, because there's not many Till the whatever. So Till Valhalla Project.
Yeah. And again, we're not gaining anything, but we'd appreciate it if you did
support our fellow veterans.
Absolutely.
Jonathan and I are both veterans. So
that's right.
We appreciate any support.
That's right. And this is episode 284, so you can find it there. And thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week.
See ya.